yeah, I'm delighted to be here and share my practice with you all. So nice to hear where everyone is coming, and I can recognize some familiar faces. And yeah, it's lovely to be here. So yeah, I'd like to share my Hackney Marshes project in London. And also I'd like to talk a little bit about my book, How to Be Feral. And the two are very much linked. The book comes from this deep practice I have with Hackney Marshes. And I will share a few photos. I don't really have so much, but so for those that are not familiar with London, Hackney Marshes is a big piece of land in East London, a common land has never been cultivated or built on, and it looks like big field of countryside in the middle of a city. There is also a small woods and some wetlands, and so this is 15-minute cycle from my house, um, and I met a filmmaker, Dominique Rivoal, who is in in the audience tonight. Hello, Dominique. And she's been filming me every month for 7 years in this field through the season, no matter what. Yeah, each month, once a month. And so we never plan to film 7 years. It started with, let's do it for a year. And then it was like, and somehow it never got boring. It was the opposite. The more we were doing it, and the more we wanted to come back. And even if sometimes it was hard to find the time, and we're like, oh, but every time we were there, it just felt like, oh, we're there. And yeah, it's a bit like having a really good old friends, and really looking forward to meeting them every time. And there's always more that you can savor about being with them. And it felt like that being with Hackney Marshes, this piece of land. And as you can see, um, so this, although they cut some of the grass in some places, it also gets in some places they leave it grow so it can go quite high, although it changes through the season. And there's all sorts of wild plants. I'm a herbalist and forager, so for me, I really enjoy all the plants that grow in this place. And so it's very important to me to, it was very important to me to connect to land where I live. And now I have to go out of a city every time. And there is it's important in my work to really de-romanticize nature, and to just really be more with how can we be with the contradiction, and not separate nature and culture, but really make it more integral to what we do. So actually practicing what I do in a city for me made a lot of sense. And often people ask me, because I practice but also teach this work in the city, and people ask me, what do you do what you do in the city? And I say, that's where it's the most needed. That's where it makes, in some way, the most sense. It's not to say that I also work outside the city in other ways, but for me, it's important to come back to a place on a regular basis and to just really show up. And it's that repetition and that commitment. And I really feel, yeah, that connection to land that feels really deep. And although me and Dominic sadly had to stop filming due to many other reasons, but I have started now teaching a core group for a year. So I've just done 1 year group, and I've just started a new one with, so we do the same thing together in this place, moving once a month, no matter the weather and what's happening. Um, so yeah, and as part of, so we have so much footage, as you can imagine, like filming for so many years, that we've managed to create quite a few things. I edited a single screen film that was published as part of a special issue of the Journal of Dance and Somatic Practices that Thomas co-edited. And me and Dominic co-edited together a 3-screen film and a 4-screen installation that is called We Are Plants, We Are Grass, We Are Hackney Marshes. So I'd like to show you a short film about the installation, and I'm going to play it in my for my computer, and if there is any problem I will share the yeah.
Claire, there's no
I
sound.
think it was really peaceful. It was something that felt very meditative and very intimate. I really liked it.
Well, I could really imagine being there and almost sort of feel the grasses and almost feel what Claire might have been feeling as she moved there.
Felt a part of it, not an observer. Felt very immersive, and that was kind of interesting. I think maybe I came expecting to be an observer, and I didn't feel that.
In some point, very immersive, like I forgot where to look and something else moved me. I can't think. There's a point. Activate all your sensations. So I kind of feel everything, and then I lost time and space, but I can't think.
It was very, very calming, very serene, almost meditative. I think this is the key word that comes again. And, you know, I caught myself like stroking my hair because there was a lot of tactility, changing my positions in the space in relation to what I was receiving. My breathing was calmer.
I really liked Dominic's movement. That's the thing I liked the most, actually. It was present, but not dominant or not trying to be something.
And one of the things I really like is that it shows the passage of the seasons. All of a sudden, you get surrounded by snow. It envelops you in that way, in the way that those spaces do.
The soundscape was very grounding. I loved that the loudspeakers were on the ground.
So yeah, I hope that gives a good idea of the work I've been doing, and I'll be happy to answer more question about it. I just feel like now I'd like to just speak a little bit about my book, How to Be Feral: Movement Practice to Reweld Your Body. That very much is connected to this project, although in a different way. And first, I'd like to say a few things about the word feral. For me, it's a word that's very much about this contradiction of what it is to be a human, between this place of being between nature and culture. And rather than just try to resolve it, for me, it's about just sitting in the discomfort and becoming more part of that, fully that. And I really, it's a word that often used negatively as something that, oh, being feral, you kind of regressing to a primitive state nearly. And in the book, it's very important for me to kind of challenge that and almost say, actually, it's upgrading. We should more fully go for that. So yeah, that's quite important, and it's a book of practices that come from what I've done, and it's very much wanting people to have doorways that can enter, but it's also a book that is very much encouraging people to think through movement and find their own way of doing that. So my book is not the way of doing it. It's kind of more a way that I found it. It kind of encouraging others to do that. So it's, for me, is giving equal value to movement and the body as a way of knowing in its own right. So that's quite important. So I'd like to read a little extract from the book, an introduction and a bit of an entry diary and an exercise. But I would like, as I'm doing this, I'm going to invite you to move with one of the practice of the book. And it's to say that my book is very much about how can we challenge also our human biased perception of the world and learn more from the more than human world. And the first section is very much about how do we challenge this to sort of wake up other ways to be with the more than human world. So I'm going to invite you to move with a practice, and you can do this anywhere. You can do it just from sitting if you don't want to do too much. You can take more space. It's a practice that is not necessarily the most comfortable. It might be a bit awkward. So, you know, do what you can, but it's basically moving without the head on top. And the idea is, how can we disrupt this kind of more human, yeah, it's sort of how challenge our own perspective of the world. So, and if you can also rest your head somewhere. So I'm going to invite you the whole time that I'm reading to just play with that in any way you want. And it might be that you just let your head hang on the side or rest and sort of somehow, yeah. And you can do that any way you want. And I will be moving myself as I'm reading, as it helps me to just connect with what I'm talking about. Because being feral is consciously opening to that wild side in us we have repressed through conditioning. It is much more than simply being animal. In that sense, it's not an invitation to get loose and wild or get lost in a trance state without presence or real awareness of what's happening. Although a state of being feral, through its spontaneity, trust of the unknown, and non-attachment to the ego and control, can have a quality of being animal, it also requires a conscious act of will and presence. Without choosing to face the constraint of our mind, we cannot release the feral side they repress. You will therefore find in this book that what I mean by feral takes many forms and shapes. Being like an animal for sure, but also being like a plant, shaping with the landscape, tuning into nature's rhythm, widening your spatial awareness, moving with your condition, and many others. It might not always seem obvious to you what it means to be feral in some of my suggestions. This is because I'm intentionally challenging a stereotypical idea and image of the wild, which is separated from us and culture. I'm inviting you to leave behind what you think you know of what is feral and be open to explore it from a blank canvas with your moving body. Find out for yourself with the freshness of a child's curiosity. Feral is a place to rediscover what has been forgotten in ourselves and of our deep entanglement with the natural world. It is about reclaiming what is already ours. Hackney Marshes, 28th of April 2023. The grass is lush everywhere. It's wet, but I can't resist lying on the ground to start with. I don't want to move for ages, and I don't. I feel heavy, like I'm in a dream that I don't want to wake up from. I open slightly my eyes and I can see the green grass all around me. It already looks quite tall from this angle. It surrounds me like a fortress. I keep closing and opening my eyes slightly. I enjoy nurturing that state in between awakeness and sleepiness. My right hip is swaying, creating waves from my body. It is as if this has nothing to do with me. I'm even surprised my body is moving at all. I enjoy watching the tall grass all around me. I enjoy being swayed by my hip. I feel I'm in a dream, in a kind of altered state, and I have no desire to come out of it, to wake up myself up. I want to move out of here, eventually into the field, but I don't want to commit to full vision. I want to keep it obscured and restricted. I want to keep my mind half asleep so that my body can be in charge. Practice 38, inner and outer. Move outdoors with your eyes closed. Move from a sense of self and inward journeying. After a while, start opening your eyes for a short period of time. Keep opening and closing them until you get used to moving with full sight. When your eyes are open, gradually invite the outside world to be part of your movement. How do you experience the shift from your sense of self to a wider world? How can you keep awareness of both your inner world and the outer world while moving? So if you're still moving, slowly, slowly finding your way back to some kind of stillness. In whatever way feels good for you. And I'm just gonna leave it here, as I feel I would rather leave time for question and dialogue. This is more important to me than just me talking and talking.
Great, thank you so much, Claire. And this was just in time, exactly 20 minutes you spent sharing some of your practice, or quite a lot of your practice, through a variety of means. And let's see whether there's any questions or thoughts. You can put them in the chat, or you can also ask questions directly. I mean, what really struck me, and we talked about this before, is how do we articulate our processes? How do we articulate our processes, and how do we disseminate our processes? There's so much practice now developing where people work alone or in small groups, but how do we disseminate that? How do we go in this emerging field of ecosomatics or eco-embodied art from process to product? And I feel that you in some ways you have already two exciting examples here that that this has been a collaborative project for you to create this immersive installation. So it has a kind of it has a greater reach than just your own practice in a way. I feel that's very exciting to see how you've made that step from the process into the installation, also in the immersive dialogue with the camera of Dominique. And gosh, I'm just getting some messages from Rewilding Britain while we're talking about this. It's very interesting. And then of course, the fact that you also worked on a book and that you published a book where as you said, as a kind of doorway to use movement and body as ways of knowing and as ways of accessing this idea or this practice of being feral or attending to be feral. I think that's very exciting to me that there is a journey from process into product in a way, and without being without appropriating perhaps nature or appropriating nature for a commercial product or something. There's a question from Jessica. She would love to have your book. And can she order it without avoiding Amazon or any big capitalist platforms? And a few people who asked that. So maybe
Yes, I can. I will share the link of my publisher right now in the chat, which is Tracky Press. Maybe some people know it. It does publish quite a few somatic movement. Yeah.
Great. Well, thanks for sharing the publisher. Any other thoughts or impressions? I mean, feel free to put your camera on as well, and so we can see each other's wonderful presence. Or
Yeah, well, people I maybe finding question, I just wanted to respond. I thank you, Thomas, for sharing what you shared, because I feel it's very much part of my work, this process of transmission, and how more in a sense of encouraging others to do the same rather than, in a kind of how do we, keep being, it feels quite important to me to be in this practice more than just myself, but many others.
you
If that makes sense.
you also run workshops and share this with
Yeah.
share this with others regularly, which is just really great. And did you have any? I mean, I saw a lot of familiar faces from kind of Middlesex and academia somehow. And did you get any advice in terms of support, in terms of how to formalize this process of going from your own process into the kind of dissemination? Did you discuss that with people, or how did you arrive at?
No, I mean, obviously, me and Dominic have been collaborating, but it has been a quite organic process. And being a filmmaker myself, you know, we could really, I think a lot of our conversation works in exchanging when we edited, and it was very responsive. But in terms of a book, I mean, I had support from my publisher, Taraki Press, but it's been very much yeah, my own process. Yeah, and it felt quite important it was quite liberating to write after my PhD, to write a book with the freedom of doing it the way I wanted and following really my body and my process, and that, yeah, and doing at my own pace. So obviously, you know, I've been moving there for 8 years, so it has been in the making for a long time, and I didn't have any pressure to publish it at a specific time, but yeah, but no, it was mainly by myself, the book. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some few more questions here from Lisa. She's curious about the song from the installation. Can you tell us something about it? And Joy asks about will the film be shown again? She would love to experience that. And some other
So I imagine she talked about the sound. Yeah. So me and Dominique, after a few years of starting, decided to record, to spend more time with the sound and record with a special mic that record in 3D. So and so we created a soundscape, and that was very immersive. And then there was 4 speakers for each screen, and then a surround system. And we also created a little bit of Foley for each screen. So on top, so it was a very immersive sound, yeah, um, and yeah, and that, yeah, that's mainly how we did it, because the sound is really important to my practice. So it was really, and also the sound, you really have the sound of a city, you know, like the siren and all of that, and then the birds, and it's a really rich sound. And then people, and then some of the filming is during COVID, and suddenly you had loads of people coming and loads of life, and you could hear people partying in the background. And so the sound is really rich, really rich.
Great. And it's so lovely to see that. I'll come to Jessica in a second. We have two more little things to questions. It's lovely for me to see you working in that place, because this is a place I visit quite often, because I'm local in that area. So this is where my friend Yohai, who's here as well, we sometimes go for a walk there. Fantastic. So question: do you move in other natural places from Bagriana? Do you move in other places, or is it all about the relationship you have with that particular place over time? And what's the duration of the film?
So I do move in other places, and it's important to sort of also disrupt my own habits, if that makes sense, of moving in its place, because it has a specific, if I can, I like something that's quite different. I mean, sometimes I move in the woods and forests because that's easy to access, but when I can go to the seaside with the rocks, it's nice for me to also, my body to just get with different landscapes, so I can also like get a reset a little bit in some way as well. But commitment to a place is very important, and this is where I live. So I think both it's like I have to keep coming back, and now I'm going with students. I can see it from a different perspective as well. It's really nice.
Wonderful.
And what was the other question?
What's the duration of the film? But I think Dominique's already answered that.
Yeah. And then I know that Joy asked about the installation will be shown again. Well, with me and Dominique are looking. The problem is the installation is a lovely idea, and we're both very proud of it. But it costs a lot of money to put it up, so it has been more how to find a venue, especially in London. It's quite hard, although it doesn't need to be necessarily shown in London, but it would be nice to show it where it has been made. But at the moment, it's more finding a venue, and then once we have it, ask for funding, because it's unfortunately not cheap to have the installation. But it would be lovely to have it again. Yeah.
We've got time. Jessica, you had a thought or a question. We've got time for one more, then we want to move on to encounter Sebastian.
I just wanted to follow up about the soundscape. I don't know, was it the video that you showed us? What I was hearing was just silence until the people spoke. And I don't know if I was missing something, but I just wanted, I'm so curious about the soundscape and whether if that video, like I think incorporating the sound even like very quietly in the would really enrich it for the viewer, unless there was unless that was in there and I just couldn't hear it because of the Zoom or
It
something.
was in there, but maybe could you not hear it? Could you not?
I couldn't hear it either. No.
Okay, so
it was
think
like, yeah, total silence, and then the human voice would just come in, like of the person who was being interviewed, and then it would go back to silence.
Because
and I was like, oh, the sound would be so lovely.
I think what I'll do is I'll share. I'm sorry, because I could hear the sound, so I didn't. What I can do is I can share the link in the chat, and people you can see it and listen to the sound again that way. Yeah, I'm sorry about that, because I don't know why I did that.
Fantastic. We've got one more question from Karina, who was eager to ask a question.
That's fine.
Hi, Claire. Sebastian, your work is beautiful. I so appreciate seeing it and being here with you today. Gosh, I have so many questions, but I said I'd ask one. First of all, I just want to say your comment about how going back, how you never tired of it, and how it just became this longer project than you expected is just itself as an observation, just incredible to this practice, to thinking about how we practice and our bodies in place and sites, and how there is never end. It's just continuously something to discover. I find that fascinating. I have a couple of, but I'll start with one question: is when you arrive at the site, what are your first instinct? How do you first start your exploration? Like, what is is it something, a routine you have, or is it always different for you, or do you enter the site a different way or the same way, or what is your first sort of initial arrival, because maybe it's the process from your home to the space itself is a process. I'm just like, what does that mean to arrive at a place and then start your investigation or what you want to call your research?
What a quick answer is that it keeps changing, but sometimes it gets into habit and sometimes it changes. But over time, it's nearly like it's so immediate now. It's nearly like a feeling of I'm home. I think it's so strong when sometimes I even have like emotion. It's like really a strength of like, oh, I'm here. And it's like, oh, as I say, I'm meeting a deep friend, and I can just even yeah. And there is a time that I've been really emotional, because what happened is always sometimes people that manage this land, they decide to cut lots of it. And then there was one year I was really looking forward to the cow parsley growing in the spring, and then I arrived and it was just cut. And then I was just like, ugh! And I mean, it's just that kind of sense of like, oh my God, it's not here. And then another year they were kept cutting and cutting and cutting. And it felt like being a wild animal that is being deprived of its habitat space. So I guess it changed in a sense also with the season. Sometimes it's really appealing because it's really fresh and you just want to lie down. And sometimes it's just all crispy from the sun that's been burning it, and you're just like, oh. So it's kind of any changes I can't really assume. So, but there is a sense of it's nearly more like, oh, I'm here, and then all the rush that was happening before, if there was any, it's a bit like pff, don't care anymore. um,
Yeah, it's incredible description.
Right.
Is there one exercise or warm up or something you do when you arrive to this place?
I mean, when I try to help people, because I think everyone is a bit different, I actually start with just landing and just saying, how do you arrive somewhere? What do you need? And maybe sometimes I give a little, because I mean, I can give practice to arrive, but more interested in how I can help people to find their own way to arrive and to notice how do they arrive and what do they do or not do. And some people like to take more of a look around. Sometimes what I do is I might give something, especially I feel like in the autumn, for example, now the colors are amazing of a smell. So I say, just do what you need to arrive, lie down, have a look, or notice for smell maybe, little something to help people. So there
Thank
is
you.
lots of little ways, yeah.
I look
Great.
forward to taking one of your workshops.
Well, thank you, Karina, for bringing that question forward, which allows us to get a bit more insight into Claire's practice.